We Get Outdoors Nation. Today we're joined by a guy who some might refer to as a quiet monk, other people might know as a rock climber, but most of you have never heard of him before, and yet probably he's one of the most impressive rock climbers of our time. He probably would never say that himself about himself, but arguably it's the truth. Didier, welcome to the We Get Outdoors podcast.
Thank you, Robert.
And I guess you would never say that about yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
So there's many things that I'd like us to talk about. But I guess let's just start with, how did you get into rock climbing?
Well, I grew up in the middle of the mountains in Switzerland. And my father used to be a used to mountaineering, and my grandfather too. And for instance, I lived where I grew up. If you do like 15 minutes driving with your car, you have like 10 or 15 stations to ski. You know, like I grew up really in the midst of the mountains.
Wow.
And very kind of naturally, I get into skiing, mountaineering, and climbing. It's a huge spot for climbing, for mountaineering, and I lived in the midst of this kind of world.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know where you are, you're in Switzerland at the moment, or you are Swiss. Whereabouts were you brought up, just to give them a frame of reference?
The town where I grew up is called Zion, and the region is Valley, the valleys. It's on the south of valleys. Then people may know Verbier. Maybe it's a world-class ski station, and I live close to Verbier.
What a place to be brought up, hey? That's incredible. So
it's cool. Yeah.
It's very cool. What are your earliest memories of disappearing off into the mountains, either to mountaineer up them or down them, or ski or climb? What are those earliest memories?
I've been on ski very early, like at age 3, I think I was skiing, and I do remember some stuff. But I would say I've done a lot of walk on the mountain and sleep in the huts, climbing a mountain hut with my father and my sisters and brother. So I do remember that. I've done a week of introducing on climbing. I was 12 years old, and it's a big memory because that was the point where I really began to know how to do my knot and how to work with ropes and stuff. And from this point, I started climbing. So it's a good memory. And then lots of them. Yeah.
What is it about climbing that makes you keep pushing harder, doing more, having a big smile on your face? What is it about the sport?
Climbing is a world where you have you need lots of training and skills, and I like and still like it a lot, the training stuff, and to be able to climb on rocks. But also you have lots of adventures, you see lots of wonderful landscapes, and you sharing great moments with friends. And I would say this is this kind of mix of this different stuff who makes climbing so great for me.
It's interesting. When I think about going in the outdoors, it's often not the particular sport that I may choose to do in the outdoors that attracts me. It's often the place and the people who I get to go and share that sport with. So I wouldn't mind if it was skiing, hiking, canoeing, anything climbing, it's about the people and the place, and then the sport bit of it sort of naturally seems to feel right when you get the right place and the right people together. So many climbers out there, and we spoke about this briefly before we hit record. Many climbers out there go and climb things that are nowhere near as impressive as what you've managed to do, and yet they have a huge social media account and websites and Red Bull and all these sponsors. What is it that's led you to not go down this big brash way of talking or showing your climbing off and almost keep it quietly to yourself?
Well, so I think if I would have keep on climbing when I stopped it like almost 15 years ago, I would have took part of this stuff. It's also like something you need when you have sponsorship, and if you earn money through climbing, you need to be visible on media stuff. So I would have go into it. So, but I stopped climbing at a time it wasn't so natural to have just Facebook was just like ring up. But now, I'm just back on climbing, and I don't have the level I used to have, and I just want to share some stuff occasionally with some friends, and but maybe if I do again some hard stuff, I maybe do some stuff, but
we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
But it's also my way of living. I could be seen as a guy kind of shine, and I do work on myself on this point of my stuff. But we'll see. I'm not opposed to neither, and I don't. I think it's great, and but I just have nothing to share now. I mean, except the stuff I've done before. I got some projects now for sure, but I don't have a crew to. So I'm just restarting from the big rest. So maybe we'll see, but not now. Yeah,
that's cool. So back in the early 2000s, you were quite widely respected and known for climbing some of the hardest cracks around the world. What was it that led you to pushing the boundaries of going up? I've seen pictures, by the way. This morning, before we chatted, I was looking at some pictures of, I think it's Greenspit and Cobra Crack. And I have to be honest, it sent tingles down my spine. I was just thinking, how on earth does a human being get themselves up there? What was it that got you to pursue those cracks?
Well, I would say many things, but when you're very involved in a sport, and when you want to push the limits, it's a world you're into, and it's great. I mean, you reach a high level, you succeed on hard stuff, and you want to pursue the adventure of climbing harder stuff, higher. It's a great dynamic, I would say, and even if you're able to be in this dynamic, it's just great. And first point, just great to upgrade and to try to push harder. But then rock climbing has this aspect which is really special. It's like the aesthetical aspect, and for me, crack climbing, you see stuff like the wall which is totally blank, just split in the middle by a crack. I thought, and I still thinking, it's just great, just awesome to see and to climb this stuff. So I got into searching about some cracks to climb new stuffs, and voilà, that's an alchemy kind of stuff.
Wow. And what advice? There's lots of climbers who will watch or listen to this, who are out there who aspire to be able to go and see that crack on the blank wall and go and start using it better. What advice do you have for climbers who want to get their crack climbing up to a higher level?
To start low, because crack climbing, the difference between sport climbing and crack climbing is dangerous because you protect yourself with some gear, and you have to be very. You have to have the skills for placing gear and for your security. So begging low because it's dangerous. But then I would say dream high, dream high and have fun. And it's a wonderful adventure to go to. Yeah, maybe fix yourself some goals. And go for it, and go for it smartly, for sure. But go, it's great. Push yourself and enjoy days there with some friends.
Nice. Now you had quite a fall during the First Ascent documentary that you were part of, and it seems like, and you can tell me whether I'm wrong, but it seems like it pushed pause on your climbing career for quite a while. What happened when you injured yourself in that documentary?
I injured myself, but not through climbing this route. I had an old injury doing soccer when I was 12 or 13, something like that. And I knew I had to go through an operation someday, but I didn't want to do that. And during this time, I was climbing the Cobra. I get through a very hard time in my life. I get tired. My knee just break down. So I get injured, but just an old injury, and I wasn't in a good psychological shape. But I stopped climbing then. Also because I had some issues with God, which is kind of weird to say and even weirder to explain. But I was in a mood of praying, and like I said, I went through very hard times, and I chose to go to ask God for some helps. It's very easy, it's shortly said. But I was in a mood, spiritual mood with God. And in the same time, I had also an experience with God who led me to a monastery. First of all, I reached this monastery just to go for recovery, just to go there for a couple of months of recovery, and so I could leave my faith and also live in a place where I could recover like great with some. But then I stayed there. It's a long story, but I stayed there.
I was going to say, because becoming a monk, from what I've read and seen, becoming a monk seemed like the thing that happened after the knee and whatever else. But that's quite an extreme step, going from climbing in different places around the world to saying, I'm going to give my life to God and I'm going to join a monastery and become a monk. And I guess I'm almost lost for a question, but just expand a little bit more about how that happened and how that worked.
Yeah. First, I grew up in a Catholic faith, and I always had this dimension in my life. The faith wasn't new for me. I grew up with that, and it always made sense for me to pray, to read the Bible, to think about big stuff, liberty, death, freedom. It was a part of my life. Then, I try. In English, it's hard for me, but I try. I lived something very, very hard in my personal life, and I lived maybe something like a traumatism, a trauma, kind of upset. Like it was hard, and in the same time, I discovered God. Wow, just a big experience with God. So my base of my identity was kind of this destabilization, and I kind of believed that I had to change everything from the beginning to be on the way of being more human or more friendly with God. I thought I had to change everything. And it made sense because I was spiritual. I was a guy with faith, and being a climber was also like something like very extreme or radical. So I thought, yeah, I want radicalism, and that's great, but it's not through climbing that I could really develop what I want to develop: the freedom, the experience, the adventure. And I kind of saw that in the monastery life, in a kind of paradoxal way, because it's not adventure, it's not you stay in one place. But I discovered that this is going to be the adventure with God, and this is going to be really great. And in some sense, it was really great. I mean, the adventure of monastic life, it's weird because for sure you're not moving around the world, you're not doing extreme sports, but you go very deep in yourself. You go very deep in the relationships with the brothers. It's a world, and I would say also in the monastery, I get into the theological world because I study a lot too. So it was another universe, the theological universe, which passionated me a lot. I didn't do any study because when I was young, I stopped everything just for climbing. But I needed some intellectual stuff in my life, so I had it in the monastery. Well, it's shortly said, and I don't know if it's understandable, but there is some stuff.
I'm getting it. I understand it. It is a different form of adventure, and it's a different form of extreme adventure as well, because it's not just saying I'm going to go to church 2 or 3 times a week and be part of a Bible study group. It's to say that actually effectively living in a church and doing a Bible study group 7 days a week is kind of what my world becomes. What's that? And excuse my ignorance, but what's that transition process of leaving an older version of you behind and becoming a monk? It's not, you can't just surely snap your fingers and say, now today I'm a monk. There must be a series of experiences or a process that you go through or something maybe.
Yeah. The main thing for me was this kind of huge experience of God, who made me kind of touch that there is something or some who behind the visible stuff of the world. So that was very deep inside me. There is something invisible which is true, which is there. So I can imagine being a monk, because there is some stuff I was ignoring too, but I knew God was there, and I knew He loves me, but blah blah blah. But then it just began so concrete, So just, but I would say also that being a climber, I was already somehow a monk, because etymologically, monk means monos in Latin, which means alone with God. Yeah, a monk is a guy who is alone with God, and being alone was something I was very familiar to when I was climbing, because when you're a climber, people sees you as it's strange for the society. What the fuck are you doing up there? You're crazy. What are you seeking for? What are you doing? Why don't you just work as everybody works and be what is makes you moving up in this stuff? And I was already somehow in a way of being alone with somebody, with the nature, with myself, and searching from something. So, it was, il y avait quelque chose. It didn't come from nothing,
It is. The outdoors is a very spiritual place. I think for many of us, you experience a level of equality that you, like, if it is raining outside my window in front of me now, and it wouldn't see jeepers, that's freaky. But it wouldn't matter whether I was the world's richest man or the most poorest man or anything in between. If we all stand outside in the rain, we all get wet at the same time. So it's got this level of equality about it that you almost can't find in other places. But equally, you can't help wonder when you're in the outdoors, why am I here? And who and how was all this created? There has to be something bigger out there. How did I get away with certain things where maybe you shouldn't have got away with it, but you did? And somebody has to have a hand in that. And I think everybody in the outdoors experiences that to a greater or lesser extent.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people, and in the huge majority, have a big spiritual life, and going in the nature, in the mountain, is the place where you can touch something yourself, also be connected with the nature. And this part actually was very huge in my past. Climbing was also something like very spiritual. But then, with a lot of things, I connected this kind of spirituality with the religion or the monastic life, and I wanted to go like 100% in the spiritual life. But I went then in a kind of middle-age way of accessing the spiritual life. I went back on the roots of the spiritual life, the roots of that the roots of this was the monastic life. So I went back on that. But now I left that.
Yeah, well, we'll get onto that in a second, because that's equally intriguing. One of the things that I've noticed is that I used to do a lot of quite complicated or hard whitewater kayaking on quite extreme rapids. And I've noticed that when I've been kayaking at my absolute best, my mind and body goes into a different, I'm not going to say universe, a different state. And in later life, in the past 8-10 years, I've I've got closer to God. I think that would be a fair way of saying it. And it's interesting that when I reflect on it, the sensation I had when I was paddling a very hard whitewater rapid is very, very, and I was in perfect harmony. It's very similar to a deep level of prayer in terms of sensation and feeling. It's almost identical. And do you find the same between your climbing and prayer? Are they very similar in the sensation you get?
I could say yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was doing a lot of climbing because it was making a lot of sense, and also just climbing was an experience, a great experience, a great human experience, and a great human spiritual God experience. And for sure, all the years I've been through when I went to a monastery, I had this kind of same experience. A lot makes sense. Being there, it was just a huge human spiritual experience. And the life is great. The life is worth it. You feel that life is worth it. And it's just great to be alive. And yeah, in both activities, I experienced that. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. And so over a period of time, you've chosen to leave the Brotherhood and become a pastor. And I want to get back to climbing and mountaineering again in a second, but I'd always assumed, and please forgive my ignorance, I'd always assumed that when you kind of signed up to become a monk, you were there as a monk for the rest of your days. I suppose that assumption may well be wrong, but what was it that triggered you to decide that now's time to move on from the Brotherhood and spread God's word in a different way?
Yeah, it's very interesting. When I entered the monastery, I thought I was reaching the ultimate experience. And I thought for sure I was entering there for never getting out. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I study a lot. And I met also because when I went into study, I moved a couple of years out of the monastery to reach a town where there is a university. And there I met a lot of people who were 100% involved in the Christian stuff, but wasn't monks. And I also discovered another way of being Christian, explanation. For me, and for maybe the majority of the Christians and even the Catholics, Christianity is glued with religion. Oh, sorry. Oh. Christianity is glued with religiosity, But I discovered that Christianity can be lived independently of the religion. And I was a religious. I was a religious man. I was thinking in terms of religion. And I thought Christianity was in terms of religion. And I discovered slowly that Christianity wasn't about religious, but was about humanism. And I discovered another way of being Christian, which is a way, an humanism, an evangelical humanism. And I am now part of this kind of way of understanding Christianity, which is a more human way of understanding Christianity, which is a way way more close to spirituality than to religion. So that is why I quit the monastery because I quit the way of understanding the Christianity in terms of religion. Okay.
Yeah, I get that. So was it? I've trained a lot of outdoor adventure sports coaches over the years, and my ethos has always been that as a coach myself, I can probably work with 10 clients at a time, maybe less than that. But if I train 10 coaches, then between us there's 11, and then we can work with 110 clients at the same time. And so if I want to get more people in the outdoors and loving the outdoors, then the more coaches I can train, the more people can be taken out safely and given great experience, and the size of the shadow increases. Is that part of what you're talking about, or have I missed it?
I think you missed it.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I think that I thought very sum up. I thought Jesus Christ founded a new religion. I discovered Jesus Christ did not found a religion, and he, in the opposite, criticized the religion to free the people from the salvation of religion. And he was a guy who said to everybody, it's possible to have a relationship with God, to be yourself without the religion. And he opened a new route, a new way for the humanity. So,
okay. I get it.
And okay, cool. I know it could be hard, and my English that's like great, but that is kind of my wait. Okay.
No, by all means, carry on. I'm this stuff intrigues me. So you're coming around in almost a full circle in terms of heading back to climbing again. What's the motivation behind thinking about getting back on the rock again?
Have fun with some friends, be back on climbing and have fun with the climbing stuff. But also, I want to reconcile myself and to unify my life, because I've done so many 100% on climbing and then 100% with God in the monastery. And I want to unify and I want to reconcile myself also with the society, because when you go in the monastery, is somehow you say to the society, I don't follow you, I'm better than you, I quit you, and I go in the mountain alone to pray my God, and I'm not part of the society. So it's a caricature, but there is something. So I want to reconcile myself with the society. I want to reconcile myself with the climbing community and with my own history, and also would say with my humanity, because in the monastery I took part to a spirituality which is a little bit angelical, a little bit superhuman, it's not that good. So I went through climbing to unify myself.
Okay. And are you going to go back to pushing the grades and back to big cracks and all those sorts of things, or maybe small cracks on big faces? I don't know. Or is that on the cards, or is it going to be about fun and laughter and friendship?
It's on the card, but I definitely will go further on site. I mean, we'll see. I have no stress. I got some dreams. Yeah, I got some big dreams, because I'm still in good shape, and I still have a big potential. So I say, okay, let's try to reach again the big level, but no stress. First of all, the friendship with the friends. First of all, the sharing of hope, the sharing of great things with people first. But then, why not going climbing hard again? And I'm training, and I see if I can do some hard stuff again. I'd be really happy if I can do. I'd be really happy if not possible. I just we'll see. Yeah.
So tell me, and I have to ask, the big dreams. What's in your bucket list or in your big dreams of things you'd like to do? And if you don't, it's fine, but you really would like to do.
Yeah. No, I share my dreams, and even if that backfires me. But there is in the States there is this huge national park, Yosemite. I'm sure you heard about. You even went there. It's a wonderful place, and there is a wonderful cliff called El Capitan. Have you heard about El Capitan?
Yeah, I have heard about it. Yes.
Yeah, there is a route there, and called Salate Wall, which is the name of a Swiss guy. That's funny. Salate was a Swiss boy who climbed there, didn't climb this route, but invented new pythons who allowed people to climb this kind of stuff. And this route is a legendary route. It's a beautiful route, and it will be a dream to climb that. Yeah.
Cool.
It would be a dream also to be back on Cobra, the famous one you saw or you heard about. Well, it's really hard. The conditions are not every day good. You need good conditions. It's very painful. It's far from home. But let's say it's a dream. Let's say it's a dream, and let's say if I reach the big level again, I'm gonna go back there. And I got some small dreams also in Switzerland, and there is a place in the States called Indian Creek in Utah. It's awesome. It may be for me the most beautiful place in the world. You're in the desert. You're climbing towers. It's awesome. It's great. But that would be some climbing dreams I have.
It strikes me that you could go to Yosemite or Utah and pretty much guarantee that you're going to go climbing. Whereas I've spent quite a lot of time in the Pacific Northwest, in British Columbia and Washington State. And you could go there for 2 weeks and not climb for a single day just because it chooses to rain all day, every day.
Yeah, that's part of the game.
It is. It is. It's part of sitting around waiting for the right window of weather to go and do what you need to do is definitely part of the game. When you're doing these big routes, are you are they pre-protected, or are you leading, or what's your strategy for some of these routes that you've climbed?
Oh, yeah. When you crack climbs. Or when you climb cracks, the goal is to climb there and through and during the climbing to put your own protections. So most of the routes, there are no pre-protected before you climb it, but you protected them when you climb. But when I evoke the El Capitan, for sure there is some stuff, some gear there who allowed you to climb the huge 3,000 feet cliffs. There is some prepared stuff.
El Capitan, how long is that going to take you? Those 3,000 feet? It's surely not a one day out.
Some climbers climb in one day. It's they are super strong, but. For me, I would say 2 or 3 days. I think I don't know.
You take a rucksack and some food and a sleeping bag and see what happens.
Yeah. There is people who spend until 2 weeks on the cliff, 2 weeks climbing that. Yeah.
What?
So they take lots of food. I met a guy actually who was very cool. For him, every year he spent 2 weeks on El Capitan, and that was his holidays. Yeah.
So he just, I won't say slowly, but he just takes his time and enjoys the scenery and enjoys the climbing, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. But there is also some very hard climbing where you need to spend a lot of time. You cannot go fast, so there is routes you need to be climbed with many days. But obviously, this guy, just spending great times, hanging in this stuff and looking around, having fun in the vertical world.
Yeah. Now, since you started climbing has moved on quite dramatically, and I'm particularly drawn to some of Alex Honnold, his climbing without ropes. What's your thought on that? It seems, from a layperson's perspective, it seems very, very, very risky to be going up an El Capitan without ropes. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I agree. It's really risky for sure. Alex Honnold, I don't know him personally, but is definitely somebody with amazing skills. Yeah, he's above us all. It's unbelievable how strong he is, how calm he can stay, how lucid he can stay for a long time. And I would say that for him, for him, I think from what I've seen, it's close to Russian roulette, but it's not Russian roulette for him because it's above all. I've climbed a little bit without rope. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it again, but I even knew that when I was climbing without rope, I wasn't doing Russian roulette. And you can feel in yourself when you are crossing the line or when you are behind the line. And I think if you stay behind the line, which cannot be calculated except for yourself, for your conscience and your feelings, it's fair. It's great. I mean, life is an adventure. And if you want to avoid this adventure, I think you avoid life. And but I would say Russian roulette is not good. Russian roulette is above the adventure. And I think Alex Honnold is behind, even if for all of us it will be above the line.
I get you. Voilà. Everybody's line is in a different place, and therefore it would be Russian roulette for me, but it's not for Alex Honnold.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I think. And I hope, but I allow myself to hope that Alex Honnold will never cross the line, because that could be a challenge for people like him. Because when you go further in this adventure, the danger is to cross one day the line because you need some more adventure,
But also,
I hope he never comes out.
Me too. I also very well aware that the margin for error gets much, much, much smaller the further you push. And so the higher that line goes, regardless of your competence, the percentage game gets it gets tougher. You're down in whitewater kayaking. We often said that the world got scary when there was a 10 centimeter variation, 10 centimeters left or 10 centimeters right, you probably drown. And if you hit the 10 centimeters in the middle, you'd be all good. But 10 centimeters is a very small margin for error. And especially when the world's hurtling downhill in water at, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, 80 kilometers an hour. There's not a lot of margin there. And I kind of think that's where Alex has got to, is that he doesn't have much space for error.
Yeah. But once again, his level and his skills are so high that I think it's fair. And he can go there. I won't say him, don't go, go have fun, go through your adventure. But please, someday, somehow, and he showed us he's able to stop or give up or don't cross this line. Who makes the adventure kind of evil. But that's it.
It's interesting because when you could argue the toss that when you cross the line, you're starting to play with the devil, not with God. It's a very weird place to be. It struck me that with all of the people I've interviewed who've done incredible things, like yourself, I've interviewed base jumpers, all sorts of people who've done incredible things, that the ability to keep your mental state calm, focused, and keep doubt out of your mental state as you're doing these things is of critical importance. How do people go about, do you think, developing that mental state for themselves? Because it's almost unteachable. And yet I think there probably is bits that we can learn from others.
Yeah. I don't know how they do. I don't know. I think Alex Arnold is wired for that from the beginning, just wired for that. But I think you can maybe exercise yourself with some breath exercising or spiritual exercises. Also, I'm pretty sure you can train that. I'm pretty sure you can, with imagination, you can put yourself in danger. And there is very probably some coaches who can help you to deal with the way of how do you deal with the feeling of danger. You can rational it. You can be, you can train that, I think. Must be some psychologists and coaches, and you can,
What is there that you personally do to keep your own head in the right space when you're climbing?
I don't really know. I have a very a kind of easy ability to focus myself, and that is a huge advantage when you're climbing, but can be a disadvantage in the life because life is more complicated, But it's kind of easy for me. It's hard to deal with the stress, but the stress, once he's canalized, it could be it makes you able to do some great stuff, but you have to canalize the stress. I don't succeed very easily sometimes. I don't know. If I would be young again, I would have asked for psychological coaching for that.
Because
but I won't now.
Not now, no. But it's interesting that I've worked with a lot of high-end athletes, be them in traditional sport or adventure sports, who have good and bad days. They'll have days where they will climb and days where they won't. That because it just doesn't feel right. And I'm always interested in if we could bottle what that right feeling was and allow people to recreate it for themselves on demand. People could climb every day if you could learn that ability to put your credit card debt to one side, or the problems at work, or the falling out with your wife as you leave in the morning, or whatever it might be. If you could bottle it, it would be worth, it would be priceless in how much it is. So I'm always curious about whether people have strategies could you pray before you climb? Would that help get you in the right headspace? I don't know.
Well, I don't use praying like a tricks, and I don't pray like everybody think praying is, like asking God for some stuff I need. But I have one idea I can share you and people who are hearing us. We are way more unified than we think. I mean, you cannot put aside everything you carry on with you when you climb. Or if you do, it's very hard because you have to do a huge work to put that aside and then just climb and then go back on the hard stuff. If you can deal to be happy in your life, whatever you're doing with, let's say your wife, as you said, or your work, and to develop just a joy of living, just a joy of being alive. And I think that's good conditions to perform, or to have fun in the mountains or wherever you go, because you don't have in one side something you do who maybe just great and fun, and it's and a lot of other things which are very hard to deal with. And I think you can work. I think it's very interesting to see our human life, our human day as one. From your sleep, from your food, from the way you live, the way you live with the other. It's one thing. And if you're bad. If you're bad in your relationship in your work, I don't think you can really perform or having a lot of fun. You be divided. You be divided and don't work in long term, I think.
I've worked with and coached a lot of people who've achieved incredible things in their life, be it in career or sport, and one of the things that I've noticed is that they've chosen to simplify their life as much as possible. But equally have also chosen and almost consciously choose to not get involved in any soap operas. The sort of social media can drag you into all sorts of soap operas. I don't have that and that person does. And none of it's real. But it's very interesting. That's a very common thing between people who seem to achieve anything and I guess that goes back to being a monk for yourself, it's a very stripped back, simple existence, I think. And I wonder if that's what's needed if you want to go and achieve your big dreams, is to reduce the amount of moving parts you have in your world. Maybe getting more control over the world. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
I'll have to go play with it. I want to go play with it, but certainly from my perspective, the less I have in my life, the happier I end up being, or maybe the less potential negative things I have in my life, the happier I end up being. At one point in time, I thought the more possessions I had, the happier I would be. And actually, I just give most stuff away these days. I'm not that materialistic anymore. But then when it comes to moving house, you don't have to stress about moving house because you have less boxes to pack. And then moving house becomes a less stressful experience. And I just wonder, I don't know, people can go play with it. Maybe people can comment on it. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I'm thinking, hearing you, is where do you put your identity? That's a good question, because if you put your identity in the material things you have, for example, or the goal you want to achieve, you are not free with the goals. You're not free with your material stuff. So maybe one key could be to be able to develop an identity which is free from everything you do or everything you have. And that allows you to have stuff and to do stuff freely, because you don't need them to be somebody. You are somebody. You find a source in yourself. And that could be a good key. If you don't have this car, if you don't have the same iPhone, because you don't need that to be somebody, you're kind of free. And also with the goals or with the big achievements, if you don't need to be the first, or if you don't need to achieve a big goal to be somebody, maybe you can do that. Maybe that's the key for doing them. I don't know. It's a way.
It's interesting. It is. I think it's very relevant. If you could get to a place where just being a guy called Didier was enough. That was it. That's perfection. Or a guy called Rob that's enough. That's perfection. Then everything beyond that is a pressureless bonus.
Yeah, it's filler. Yeah.
You've just given me a little epiphany. Thank you very much. A little aha moment. Yeah. Cool. And the reality is that just being Didier or just being Rob, that is more than enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's such a richness. It's just a gift. It's huge. It's huge.
Wow.
It's huge. And in the same time,
go on.
Yeah. Well, in the same time, you need to have stuff and you need to do stuff to be yourself. It's weird. It's not only to be somebody without anything. You need achievement, you need possessions, but you need to find an alchemy between these stuffs. Human life is about
if it was simple, we'd all have all the answers.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Didier, I just want to say thank you for your time and thank you for coming on and telling your story today. It certainly is, and I know it's your life, but to the outsiders looking in, it's certainly been it's a unique story to have and be able to tell. And there's not many people on planet Earth who've been to the extremes of things like you have done, and still carrying on. It seems to me now that you've been to the extremes and now you're hunting for balance, or as you say, a balance in humanity. And I think that many of us could learn a lot from that. So thank you very much to what you bring to the world.
Well, thank you, Rob. It was a pleasure to share you a little bit of my story, and let's keep going and do the good around ourselves and share hope and life and joy, because life is great.
Life is the most incredible gift we've all been given, so we should use it with respect and integrity. So folks, for anybody who wants to follow Didier, keep up with him on his adventures. He's got a Facebook page, and I'll put the link beneath that. But I guess apart from that, you may well have to go and get on a plane, fly to Switzerland and go climbing and create yourself a new friend, because he's a hard man to track down. But Didier, thank you so much for your time today, and good luck with whatever the future brings for you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. God bless.
Thank you. You too.